When an elderly woman in her late 70s was dragged off a luxury flight for refusing to give up her seat, no one asked why she spoke calmly in 5 different languages. No one saw the quiet badge tucked inside her worn leather bag. They thought they'd thrown her out. What they really did was bring a $4 billion empire to its knees. Odessa James walked slower than most, but every step still landed like punctuation. Click, click, click. Her luggage didn't roll, it glided. Muted burgundy leather, monogrammed, European, handled like it had been in rooms others only saw in catalogs. She reached gate 7A without a word. People looked, then looked away. Her skin, her age, her quiet. First class, Zone 1. She didn't flinch when the scanner beeped. The attendant barely masked her hesitation. "Ma'am, are you sure this is your boarding group?" Odessa tilted her head. Not confused, just done explaining. "I am." She didn't blink, didn't hand over the ticket again. The scanner beeped once more. Approved. But the tone had already been set. As she walked down the jet bridge, the cabin door was still open. She smelled lavender oil and tension. Seat 3A. Window. She sat before most had even boarded. Took out a small cloth and polished her reading glasses. Slowly, the man in 3B looked up from his tablet. Then down. Then back again. Her jacket was wool. Pressed. Not a wrinkle in sight. The flight attendant walked past once. Then again. Then stopped. "Ma'am, this seat is reserved for our Platinum Select guests." Odessa looked up. Only her eyes moved. "It still is." Silence. The attendant forced a tight smile. She leaned down. "Did someone help you book this seat?" Odessa didn't answer. She just reached into her coat, pulled out the ticket, laid it flat, face up. The barcode shimmered under the cabin lights. The woman stared, then took it, scanned it, confirmed, returned it without a word. But the temperature shifted. 3 rows back, someone whispered. The captain walked by and nodded politely. She didn't return it. A second attendant appeared. This one younger, nervous, trying to smile too wide. "Ma'am, I'm afraid there's been a mix-up. We're going to have to ask you to move to the back." Odessa folded her hands. "No." Simple. Waited. Passengers turned. But no one spoke. "Security will have to be called," the attendant said softly. Odessa breathed in. Not deep, not sharp, just enough. Then nodded. "Do what you need to do." Took 7 minutes. Security entered like they always do, with too much certainty. Blue gloves, hard eyes, empty understanding. They didn't ask questions. They asked for compliance. "Refusing to follow instructions," one muttered. She didn't argue. She didn't shout. She just stood. And as they walked her off the plane, her suitcase trailing behind, her heels still clicked. Click, click, click. She looked no one in the eye, but everyone felt seen. At the gate, she adjusted her scarf, dialed a number, waited, then said, "Yes, it's me. Activate clause 14C. She hung up and sat down. 1 row of first-class passengers watched through the glass, eyes wide, mouths shut. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's phone buzzed. Then the gate agents. Then the regional managers. The plane didn't move. Not for 43 minutes. Odessa didn't watch it leave. She was already opening her book. Page 1. Marked with a worn gold clip. A note scribbled in the margin. "Dignity never asks for permission." And beneath it, a phone number with 3 international country codes. She didn't tell them who she was. That was the first mistake they made. Assuming silence meant weakness. Assuming calm meant permission. At the gate, the same woman who scanned her ticket now avoided eye contact. Odessa didn't offer any. She just waited. For terminals away, a call bounced through 5 towers, across 2 time zones, through 3 executive desks. The CEO of Meridian Air was finishing his espresso. White shirt, silver watch, unread email glowing on his tablet. Urgent. Flagged incident. Odessa James. He blinked, clicked it open. Read the name again. His jaw tightened. He didn't sit back. He stood. Who authorized her removal? No one in the boardroom answered. Not yet. Odessa's scarf caught a breeze from the vent above her. It fluttered once, then settled. She didn't check the clock, didn't tap her foot. She knew time was already working for her. The young security guard, the one who held her elbow, came back, tried not to look nervous. "Ma'am, I just want to say." She held up her hand. "No need." Still soft, still in control. He nodded, but shame stayed heavy on his face. He wasn't the one in charge, but he played the part. A baby cried at a gate nearby. Someone laughed too loudly. Life resumed around her, but not for them. Across the country, 2 assistants were pulled out of meetings. 2 partners began reviewing contracts. And 1 chair at the Civil Aviation Compliance Council sat suddenly empty. Because Odessa James didn't just work in language. She enforced silence when necessary. The call she made triggered more than review. Triggered breach. And breaches trigger audits. Audits that expose things companies pray never surface. In the terminal, Odessa rose. Her back was straight, her coat still sharp. She walked slowly toward the bathroom, but 3 people stepped out of her path. Power doesn't have to speak, just arrives. Meanwhile, back on the tarmac, Flight 611 still hadn't taken off. The crew whispered. The pilot refused to depart. A system-wide hold had been placed. 2 words caused it. Internal override. The cabin lights flickered. The gate agent stepped away to take a call. Passengers in first class grew restless. They didn't know why, but they felt it. At her gate, Odessa sat again. Same posture, same presence. And then, a voice. "Ms. James." She looked up. A man in a dark navy suit. Not a uniform, not security. Someone above that. He didn't offer his hand. He offered his apology. Without saying the word. "We'd like to escort you back on board." Odessa stood, paused, studied his face. "I won't be flying today." The man hesitated, but nodded. "We understand." No fanfare, no announcement. As she walked away, her ticket crumpled in his fist. He didn't throw it out. He folded it and kept it. By nightfall, 3 internal emails were leaked. By morning, the stock dropped 11%. No one knew her full name, but someone whispered, "She speaks for the council." And that was enough to ground a billion-dollar machine. The meeting room smelled like burnt coffee and nerves. One executive tapped a pen. Another chewed his lip. The silence between them was louder than blame. On the screen, flight logs, timestamps, security footage. Muted. Paused. Looping the moment they dragged her. Someone finally spoke. Did anyone run her credentials? No one answered. Because by now, they knew. Odessa James wasn't just a translator. She chaired the Regulatory Ethics Subcommittee. Oversight for all international flight protocols. Liaison to multiple European aviation boards. And one of 6 people in the U.S. with the power to flag an airline's global clearance. She didn't speak much in meetings. But when she did, airlines listened. Meanwhile, Odessa sat in a cafe across from the terminal. 1 sugar. No cream. Black. Bitter. Calm. Her phone buzzed. It's begun. No name. Just trust. She stirred her coffee once. Didn't look up. Didn't smile. Let it come to them. Back at Meridian Air HQ, the legal team was already shifting. 3 files removed from the press docket. 1 pending labor dispute quietly settled. 2 campaign donations scrubbed from public listings. Damage control, without knowing how deep the damage went. In the cabin of Flight 611, the pilot received a private message. Encrypted. Flagged. Hold until further instruction from Risk Operations. He'd flown through lightning, fog, once even a bomb threat. But this message made him sweat. In another office, a senator's aide was typing fast. Statement draft. Crisis script. 3 versions. All lies. The headline hadn't hit yet. But the rumble was coming. Back in the cafe, Odessa stood. Left the half-empty cup. Walked like silence itself. Outside, a car waited. Unmarked, tinted windows. She stepped in. The driver didn't speak. He knew better. From the back seat, she watched the airport shrink in the distance. One building, one mistake, $4 billion of fallout. Inside her purse, a letter, folded, crisp. It was never meant to be sent. Only seen. To Board of Meridian Air. Subject, grounds for sanction. Date, last week. She had waited, given them a chance, ignored the microaggressions, let the dismissals slide, until they touched her, until they made her visible. Now, she would return the favor, one signature at a time. The newsroom was quiet at first. Then came the ping. Then another. Then dozens. Screens lit up with one headline. Elderly black woman dragged from flight, was a high-ranking aviation regulator. No spin, no buffering, just the footage. And her name, Odessa James. Anchors paused before speaking it, like it carried weight. It did. In a law office in D.C., a partner whispered, "They touched the wrong grandmother." At Meridian's PR floor, chaos bloomed. One intern cried. A manager locked their office. The phones didn't stop. Emails poured in. From lawmakers, from watchdogs, from allies in places Meridian forgot existed. The footage looped on national TV. No commentary, just Odessa, pulled by her arm. Grace wrapped in insult. On the third floor of the FAA building, someone printed the sanction letter. Stamped, dated, filed under immediate suspension review. Meridian's board chair read it twice. Then again. His hands shook. A woman in glasses slid him another file. No words, just the cover. Regulatory breach, pattern of profiling in executive flights. Odessa had receipts. Old ones, new ones, names in black ink. The kind of names that drew hearings. Subpoenas, stock plunges. Meanwhile, Odessa stepped out of the car into rain. No umbrella, no rush. Her scarf lifted like a banner. Inside the marble building, the clerk at reception looked up. Eyes widened. He stood. She nodded once. The gesture of someone not needing to explain who she was. She passed security. No bag check this time. On the top floor, 2 commissioners were already standing. Not waiting, anticipating. Their smiles polite and cautious. "Ms. James, we read your memo." She didn't sit. She placed the folded letter on the table. "You have until Friday," she said. One line. Steel under silk. The senior commissioner flinched. "We may need more." "You don't." Silence. Complete. Behind her, a portrait of early aviation pioneers hung tall. All white. All gone. She glanced at it once. Then back to the men who now held pens with trembling fingers. By the time Odessa walked out, the vote had begun. 2 abstained. 4 agreed. Meridian's international routes. Revoked. Pending review. Licensing for key ports. Under investigation. Investors. Panicked. And Odessa? She stopped by a small church downtown. Lit a candle. Sat in the back pew. Not to pray. To remember. Her mother's voice. "Dignity is quiet, baby. But it's the last thing they can take." She smiled. Then stood. And walked out. Without looking back. The stock market opened with a tremble. Meridian Air dipped before the first bell. By noon, it was falling. By evening, it was drowning. CNBC used the word collapse. Wall Street didn't argue. Inside the Meridian boardroom, a war of whispers. Resign before Friday. She can't have that much. She's bluffing. She wasn't. Odessa didn't leak the footage. She didn't need to. The world saw it. What she did leak was the audit. 3 years of ignored complaints. 2 lawsuits settled quietly. Flight attendants demoted after reporting racial bias. Odessa didn't shout. She uploaded to one secure shared drive, then let it circulate. Free. A quiet revolution in a PDF file. The media shifted. No longer just outrage. Now facts. Now patterns. A senator held up her photo on the floor of Congress. Said her name with reverence. Odessa James is why oversight matters. Back at the terminal, Gate 47 had been renamed. Flowers showed up. A child left a note. My grandma said thank you for standing up. Odessa never returned to that airport. She didn't need to. Her presence, still there. In every gate agent's new training manual. In every ma'am spoken with care. In the silence before security makes a decision. At Meridian, the CEO tried to speak. Too late. Too soft. Odessa sat at home folding laundry, watching sunlight stripe her windows. Calm. Whole. She answered no calls. Took no interviews. Just turned the page of a thick novel with a quiet smile. In a staff room across town, a young black woman watched the news. She wore a Meridian badge. Her posture changed. That night, she applied for the management training program. Used Odessa's name as her reference. The system remembered her now. Not because she screamed, but because she refused to vanish. They dragged her out, and she walked back in through every door they thought they'd closed. He opened the envelope slowly, hands trembling, not from age, from consequence. The audit summary was just 5 pages, but every word was a razor, precise, documented, unforgiving. He had signed 2 of the violations himself, buried them, buried her complaint with them. Now it was all unearthed. Every lie, every name, every ignored warning. He looked up. The boardroom was half empty. The rest sat in silence, avoiding his eyes. She had spoken only once. 5 days ago. You will regret underestimating me. He hadn't replied, just smirked, then signed her removal order. Now, he couldn't look at the screen, couldn't face the video again. Her scarf slipping as they pulled her. The way she looked up, not broken but aware. She knew this would come. She prepared for it. HR's director resigned at noon. Legal sent a memo titled Exposure Estimate. 17 pages. All bad. He loosened his tie. Sweat rolled behind his ears. The building felt smaller. Outside, the media had gathered. Not for him. For her. He turned to the assistant by the door. Has she responded? The young woman didn't move. Just nodded. She declined the settlement. Said she doesn't want their money. He swallowed hard. What does she want? The answer took a breath. She said truth. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and felt the empire crack beneath him. Meanwhile, she stood in her garden, hands in the soil, soft, steady, sure. She pulled weeds gently, tended to roses. The phone buzzed on the porch. She didn't move. Let it ring. Wind brushed her cheek. Warm, like her mother's hands once were. She looked up. The sky was wide, unbothered, and somewhere inside her, peace bloomed. She didn't hear the knock at first, too focused on the silence. The kind that lives only after the truth has been set free. Another knock, this one firmer. She wiped her hands on a towel, opened the door. A young woman stood there, fresh-pressed blazer, tight nerves behind steady eyes. Ms. James, I'm sorry to bother. She held up a hand, gentle, but firm. You're not bothering me. They sat on the porch. The air was warm, the trees still. The woman took out a notebook. No logo, just a thin pen trembling slightly. I watched everything. The audit, the video. I work at corporate now. Pause. I've been scared. She listened, didn't interrupt. Let the girl's fear breathe. I didn't know I was allowed to say no. Didn't know I was allowed to tell someone, that's wrong. The rocking chair creaked beneath her. She nodded once. You are now. The young woman's eyes welled. But she didn't cry. She just sat straighter. I want to do something that matters. She smiled then, soft, proud. Then don't let them shape your voice. Silence again, but this time shared. Safe. The woman stood to leave. At the gate, she turned back. What made you fight them? She looked at her garden. The roses in bloom. The soil turned with care. I didn't fight. Pause. They just never expected me to plant roots. The gate clicked shut. The breeze carried the scent of jasmine. Far across town, a new training video played in a break room. Odessa's story, shared in clipped footage. No drama, just truth. A young agent watched closely, paused it, rewound, watched again. Later that day, he refused to remove a black couple from a flight. No violation, no cause. The supervisor stared. That's protocol. He shook his head. No, that was habit. And he walked away, straight-backed, unshaken. The ripple had begun, quiet, but growing. The wind carried her name now, Odessa, spoken in meetings that had never known her face, spoken with reverence or fear, not because she shouted, but because she didn't. The airline board gathered behind glass walls. Every suit, every voice, stiff with panic. A new headline dropped. DOJ launches formal inquiry into systemic racial bias in flight removals. Another shoe. They kept falling. Inside a break room in Tulsa, a young attendant watched the news. Her hands trembled on the mug. She'd seen what they did to Odessa. She hadn't said a word. Back then. Now, she filed her statement. Small voices matter. One after another. A former pilot spoke. A baggage handler sent photos. A legal intern slipped a USB drive. No flame, just friction. But the walls were heating up. Inside corporate, the chief risk officer leaned forward. Heads will roll. He wasn't wrong. 3 directors stepped down. No press release. No farewell cake. Just gone. Odessa never asked for that. She asked for reform. They gave her silence. So now, the world filled it for her. A senator called. So did a filmmaker. So did the UN. But she didn't answer. She was pruning her roses. A neighbor passed by, paused. You really took down the whole sky, didn't you? She smiled, soft, knowing. She didn't destroy the sky. She reminded them who built the wings. The sky was clear that morning. No clouds, no noise, just light. She sat beneath the fig tree behind her house. Warm breeze, bare hands, still mind. The storm had passed, and yet its tremble still echoed through boardrooms. A new CEO had been appointed, the first black woman in the company's history. She wore silver-rimmed glasses and a calm jawline. She didn't mention Odessa's name, but she carried it in every policy signed, in every apology made right. Odessa didn't seek credit. She just watched the flight map from her porch. Routes changed. Rules changed. Some people still rolled their eyes. But the ones who mattered, they remembered. Security guards now trained in cultural response. Attendants taught in equity protocols. Passengers documented their rights before their tickets even printed. None of it was perfect, but it was more just than before. And justice doesn't always wear a robe. Sometimes, it wears soft shoes and moves slow. She visited her daughter's school, sat in the back row during History Week. The teacher smiled when she entered. She's the reason we rewrote this chapter. The children stood and clapped. Not for revenge, for truth. The truth of a woman who didn't break when she was dragged. She bent, then rose higher. She gave them more than outrage. She gave them blueprint. Her phone buzzed. An offer. A documentary. She declined. Let others tell the story. She had flowers to tend. Mail to sort. A life that no longer fit in someone else's shadow. At sunset, she walked the same path she used to walk as a child. Shoes dusty, spine straight. A little girl waved at her from across the street. Are you famous? She paused, looked at the girl. No, she smiled. But I am free. She walked on, and the sky opened. What do you think happened after the flight? Was justice finally served? Or is this just the beginning? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. If the story moved you, if it made you pause, reflect, or see the world differently, like, share, subscribe. Because voices like Odessa's, they're not just stories, they're signals. And you are part of what comes next. This is Justice Throne, where dignity rises, even when silence falls. Until next time.